You're right. Go.
Hopefully it's recording.
Yeah. Did it say it started?
No.
Okay. Let's see. It might tell you on your little Zoom thing. You are.
Oh, it's
Yep, it is.
all right. So with that, what would they say? Take two?
I do. All right. Well, some of you guys know me. Some of you don't know me much. My name is Valerie. I'm a recent Bioline person. It feels recent, but I've been with Bioline for about a year and a half now. I am a Buckeye. I went to Ohio State to get my master's and in entomology, and now I'm the Midwest technical specialist at Bioline. So I travel to all the farms and consult with the growers on what to use, when, how, and I kind of wanted to put a presentation to do together today to talk about biocontrol strategy for nurseries specifically, because I think a lot of places can benefit from using the biocontrols, but they have to kind of tailor it to what works best for their setting. And so this can kind of help take a little bit of the overwhelm of that away and kind of hopefully it can help you guys envision what's possible with the biocontrols and where it fits well with nursery. So I'll get started. It's not going to be a super long talk. I only have about 15 slides, and then we can do like a talk at the end of the meeting about things a little bit more in depth. This is a slide that I put in almost every presentation. Why biocontrol? Save money. I know some people don't believe it, but if you commit to biocontrol, you can really reduce the amount of times that you have to spray, and you can save money, especially if you're spraying once a week, something that costs hundreds of dollars. Reducing your pesticide use, almost everybody wants to do that. Reducing our pressure of insecticide resistance and the employee benefits, no reentry interval. I have customers who have their kids put out the biocontrol agents because it's completely safe, even though it's probably not legal, but they're doing it anyway. And it's good, better for the environment. So it's a good sustainable solution. It's a new technology to consider if you haven't tried it before. It can just take a little bit of consulting to kind of get the hang of and see the results that you want to see. This is kind of the strategy that I think works well in a nursery or field crop setting. I know we're always preaching the biocontrol reps to prevent pests using these bugs, so applying them early on the crops that you know are going to get a certain pest. So that's spider mites on hydrangeas, roses, and maybe mealybugs on certain types of plants. So as we gain more experience year after year, we kind of know what bugs are going to show up on what crops and when, so we can begin putting our bugs in sooner rather than later. And you can spend a lot less money on biologicals if you do it that way, because you don't need as many bugs to eat because there's not as much of a pest there to feed on. Another thing that I think is very good to be aware of is that when you're applying biocontrols, predatory insects especially, if you are able to apply them in lower rates more frequently, you tend to get a better result versus applying them in mass and then stepping back for 8 weeks. Because 8 weeks later, you're going to have to come back and apply a huge population again. So doing applications once a week or every 2 weeks really does get you the best result. Another thing to consider is using biocontrol where it excels the most. Some people kind of naturally take this on, but we control fungus gnats, thrips, spider mites, broad mites, russet mites, mealybugs really well biologically. So that's one thing to consider is if you're looking, where can I start using biocontrols for the first time? Yeah, and using biocontrol where it excels the most. So fungus gnats are really easy to control with bios, thrips, spider mites, and mealybugs, and I'll kind of go more in depth on that. And then using biocontrol up front and then resorting to chemical control is really helpful. That's a good way to save money and push back your pesticide applications. Sometimes you're in a propagation house and it gets too hot in the middle of the summer and you have to switch to chemical control because your beneficial insects aren't happy at 95 plus degrees Fahrenheit. And then another thing is finding ways to streamline or speed up application. It's not realistic for me to come in and ask you guys to sprinkle the bugs on one plant at a time. And I recognize that, and it's something that our industry has had to really start improving on. So using tools like blowers, seeders, drones, and bug line. So we can we're gonna go into all of these things. Fungus gnat controls, we have two options that are a dry media. So those are your soil dwelling mite, we call it hypoline at Bioline, and then a soil dwelling beetle called Staphyline. These two are a really great combination in propagation in the winter because you're not having to water on nematodes frequently when the plants aren't uptaking a lot of water. And rogue beetles are also something that we don't typically recommend you apply out in the field, but if you're in a high tunnel, you can put them out and they'll stick around for you. They'll feed on fungus gnats. They'll feed on any moving thing in the soil. As I was making this presentation, I was thinking about the slugs and the snails and whether or not this beetle could be used to feed on those. It's a small beetle. It's only the size of about a sesame seed, but I would imagine it would be able to feed on the really, really small slugs, or the really small snails, maybe even the eggs. So somebody should try that out and see if they can get a result. And then of course we have nematodes. Bioline produces really high quality nematodes. They're a powder formulation. So if you would like to give our nematodes a try, let me know. And if anybody has tried the Staphyline, the Delocia beetles, in high tunnels, I would love to hear about it. Mealybugs. One thing that's new for Bioline is we carry Cryptolaemus, which is the mealybug destroyer beetle. We originally were only offering the adults, but after a lot of push from reps like myself, we now have the larva of the mealybug destroyer, so you can do a little bit more of a targeted application. You can do a combination of both larva and adults. The perk of the adults is that they have really good host seeking behavior, so they're going to go around and find those mealybug egg sacs, and they're going to lay their eggs there. And then the larva, they are really nice for getting that nice targeted application if you have a small hotspot of mealybugs. I think that these along with chrysoline, the chrysopa, the green lacewing larva, are probably the most sustainable solution for controlling mealybugs. They just do a really good job, especially if you're keeping those plants around for a long time. Mealybugs are really hard to actually eradicate with sprays. So I've had a lot of success using this combination in settings where plants are kept for a long time. So this is another thing that we can bring on if you are struggling with mealybugs.
About cactus.
Yeah, works on cactus. The chrysoline, the the cryptoline, those guys do really well in like succulents. They like to bask in the sun, so sometimes you'll see the larva like crawling up a leaf to kind of sit in the sun. I use them a lot in conservatories like Franklin Park Conservatory in Columbus or Frederick Meyer in Michigan, in their arid desert domes. And they just keep a population of these guys in there all the time because they get mealybugs just there because it's succulents and mealybugs love succulents. Yep, so this is the mealybug destroyer is a very satisfying biocontrol to have established in your crop, because you can see the larva mimic a mealybug. And they've evolved to do that because mealybugs were protected by ants because they secrete honeydew, and ants like to eat the honeydew. And anything that went to eat the mealybug was going to be taken out by soldiers of ants, which is terrifying in the bug world. So they've evolved to mimic the mealybugs to kind of get past and trick the ants. And so they kind of infiltrate the mealybug colonies and they can feed on them. So yeah, if you see those larvae and you think it's a mealybug, you're in trouble there because you're killing your friends. Yep. So this is just one I want people to know that biocontrols do succeed well on if you're keeping plants around for a good period of time. So good for stock plants. If you're in quick production and you're just turning over those plants really quickly, I don't think it's worth it. I think your protocol there is to either spray or throw out the plants that have mealybug. But if they're valuable plants and you're going to keep them around a while, this is a good thing to keep your eye out for. Thrips are great to control with bios. We always do at least 2 predators to have a successful thrips control. We have a predator for every phase of the thrips life cycle. I'm not going to get into the life cycle of the thrips. I didn't want to be like super technical during the talk today. But we have foliar mites that will feed on the larval thrips on the foliage, and you want to pair that with something that's going to feed on the pupal thrips in the soil. So that's either going to be one of those 3 fungus gnat controls. So either those nematodes, those soil dwelling beetles, or the hypoline, the soil dwelling mite. And those 2 are a really great pair together. And then if you have to bring in the aureus later in the season when the day length is long enough for the aureus to do their thing, you will definitely see really great results. Aureus are great heavy lifters, but the other controls are less expensive, so you can kind of take those and run with them as long as you can to get a really good result. All right, and then our spider mite controls, Bioline, California line, and Anderline all kind of have different environments that they succeed well in. Bioline is probably your best. It's for similis mites. They once they get up to a high enough temperature, I think it's around 70 degrees, they do reproduce faster than 2-spotted spider mites, so they're very good at curing an infestation. And then we have Anderline and California line. Those 2 are kind of your generalist predatory mites for spider mite control. Really great to have around. Andersoni's your cold weather mite, whereas Californicus does a little bit better in warm weather. However, Californicus does really well in tall plants with smooth leaves, so really great for trees, whereas Andersoni likes plants that are close to the ground. So those are 2 things to consider. I think a lot of times people just want to put them in their temperature category. But if you're working with a tree and it's a little bit cooler, I think Californicus is a better option over Andersoni. Andersoni also does really well on mites that attack those evergreens in cooler temperatures. So that's another one to consider trying. I think Mark may use those. He can weigh in and let us know. Yeah. What's new for predatory mites? We are now offering mixes of predatory mites. This is really, really good if you are targeting thrips and spider mites in the same area, because these are extremely high density packages of mites. So you're going to get a really good bang for your buck. For example, these 1-liter tubes oftentimes only have about 50K mites in them, but this tube has 105K mites in it for the same amount of carrier material. So we have triple mite, which is Californicus, cucumeris, and Swirsky all together. And then we have Triline Plus, which is Californicus, cucumeris, Swirsky, and Andersoni all together. And then we also have a mix called Percal, which is Californicus and Persimilis mixed together. I really like this for crops that have notorious spider mite problems because you get that quick result from the Persimilis, but then you get that more long-term result from the Californicus. So these are mixes really good to be aware of. If I know that the tubes are very high density, so you might want to cut them with a different carrier material so you can spread it even farther and get the most out of it.
What's the
Really,
square footage, Valerie, for one of the tubes? How far does it go?
really far. So you only need about 10 mites per square foot. So this is gonna cover a huge area. Sometimes people do around 20 mites per square foot if they want to be a little bit more aggressive, or say they don't want to do it once a week, they want to do it every 2 weeks. So then they'll do 20 mites per square foot instead of 10. But that's kind of the general recommendation. So whatever 125K is times 10 or divided by 10
Right.
would be the right thing, right amount there. So yeah, it goes pretty far.
Oh, they come,
Don't
the
don't
mics
ask
going
me
in
to do
that
math.
too. Oh, they come, the mics going in that too.
They just kind of like whistle and they run in. Okay, time saving technology. Yeah, we just like, come on. We tie little leashes
A
around.
little quicker.
Yeah,
Count them every week when I get them, sure.
yeah, he counts every single one.
Mhm.
Some of the time saving technologies I want you guys to be aware of. Bug line sachets, they're a preventative approach for spider mites and thrips, and then blowers and cedars can be used preventatively or curatively, and then drone release, which can obviously be used preventatively or curatively. So we'll kind of get into each of those. Some of you guys have been aware of bug line, some of you guys have tried bug line. It's really great for tunnels, especially when the tunnels are covered. If you want to get ahead of your biocontrol and maybe put these in very early spring while things are still covered. Really good for spider mites, really good for thrips. These last about 5 to 6 weeks. And so you put those in there and you don't have to do anything. And then obviously you have to clean them up. So be aware of that side of the labors that you need to come in and clean them back up after 6 weeks. But this is kind of the best sachet solution for nursery that I'm aware of right now. And I think Bioline might be the only one that carries sachets on a ribbon like this. So definitely reach out.
I'm gonna ask the obvious question. How do they get out of the ribbon?
Yeah, there's a tiny hole poked in
Mm.
each one. And they're made just like all of us. They're perfect the way they are. You don't have to tamper with them once you get them. Sometimes I get like a video or a picture saying like, hey, I ripped all the sachets open so the mites could come out, and that's not really the case. The hole is made a perfect size so that it retains perfect amount of moisture to kind of keep the colony in there going. The sachets have a breeding colony of mites. So what's happening is there's a bran material that is growing a yeast. And then there's a feeder mite in there. We use the TE mite at Bioline that is growing and reproducing on the yeast. And then your predatory mite is growing and reproducing on that mite. So it is a whole ecosystem inside the sachet. It's basically just an extension of a biofactory, but in a smaller packet. Yep, so these are a really good option if you have a crop that struggles with, I would say, spider mites, even over the winter time. And I would imagine the humidity is probably very nice for these sachets if you've got the tunnels covered. Yep, so that's bug line. Here's another slide about it. It's really nice. It takes probably, you could put it out with one person, but 2 people is definitely better. And yep, those are the target pests: spider mites, broad mites, russet mites, used very commonly in a lot of crops, hydrangeas, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. Yep. And then blowers and cedars, one of these pictures is Hector and his cedar that he uses sometimes to put out the loose material. It can be a little bit heavy handed, so you have to walk quickly.
Well,
Yeah, so, but it is fast, it is very quick. Or say if you got tri-line, Hector, and you cut it, and you made it more, if you thinned it out, then you would probably get a nice rate with the amount that comes out of the cedar. And then a blower, you can make your own blower as long as you're checking and making sure that you're not killing your mites after you put them through there. Or you can get a blower from any of the biocontrol companies. I like the Bio blower, it's called Bug Flow, so look into that one. I think they're probably gonna come out with a new one soon. I'm hoping that Bioline will also come out with a blower, but I'm just gonna hope for the best on that. And when it does come out, I'm sure I will stand behind it as best I can. And then of course the picture on the far side with the man bending over, that's exactly what I'm not gonna ask you guys to do. That's my colleague Jeff putting out some, I think, Andersoni in Florida back in January. And if you guys haven't seen, I don't know how much time you guys spend on LinkedIn, probably not as much as I do. But my colleague Jeff makes a lot of really good educational posts on LinkedIn. He's a really good entomologist and teacher. And then a drone release. So this is kind of newer for the Midwest, but it's nothing new for the West Coast and down in Florida and Canada, actually. So we are releasing predators via drone in many crops, especially strawberries, onions, carrots, and this is mainly for spider mite and thrips control. We also do release via drone for caterpillar control overseas, but it could be done here as well. And we got a really good result with it in Canada last year, treating, I think it was 460 acres of carrots and onions for thrips. So this is definitely possible. You can get a really good result. You don't need as many releases when you are releasing outdoors with the bios. You don't necessarily have to do it once a week. You can do it depending on the crop and the pressure twice in a season and still get a really good result. So this is something that we're kind of playing around with. Bioline is partnered with some drone companies and some drone pilots who can come out and perform your applications for you. Or if you happen to have a drone, you can try it out. I know that, am I allowed to share your stuff? But Hector has tried putting out Persimilis, right? Or is it Percal?
It was Persimilis.
Persimilis with a drone made for fertilizer granulars,
It's spraying.
spraying drone.
Spraying it.
Okay.
I use the
Yeah.
fertilizer hopper.
Hopper, yeah. And they were still kicking and grooving when they made it out with the drone. So you don't necessarily have to buy a special drone to do this, or you don't have to go through a drone pilot that has a special attachment to be able to pull it off. So if you're dealing with spider mites and you're spraying once a week, you could replace that completely with predatory mites. The predatory mites work really well on spider mites, especially during probably late spring through summer, even into early fall. It's the perfect temperature for them. You don't have to do it once a week. You can do it every few weeks. And I think that this would be kind of a game changer for people who are spending a lot of money trying to kill spider mites. So yep, we can talk about that more in depth, but that is kind of the gist. Can we click on this link? It'll let you. This is a video by Parabug. They put out a lot of biocontrol of ours. And they just kind of made this video.
This one?
Yep, in Ventura County. So if we could just watch it together, hopefully we can hear it. It's a little bit dramatic, so I'll just warn you about that. Hopefully, oh, you mentioned something. That's a lot of people using so dramatic. There's other videos that have more like
Yeah,
happy music. Um, yeah, so
that's probably what it sounds like, you know. Guys in all the people's heads. When
Yeah.
I see out watching the field.
yeah, carrying your sprayer around.
You see the mist going up in the air.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're terrified of you.
So
Yeah.
how do you calibrate delivery with a drone like that?
For the Parabug one, I don't know. So I haven't worked much with the drones personally. So in terms of the mechanics and everything, every drone I would imagine is slightly different. You
Oh, it's
calibrated your drone,
how fast
how fast it turns basically is how quick it comes out.
And the speed
And
that you
then
travel.
also the speed you travel. And then isn't there like the like
even-
hole that it comes out from? Can you alter the size of that?
No,
no, it's
No.
all.
it's the speed.
Yeah.
It's the speed, but
Okay,
you can also how high you're flying the drone to.
okay, yeah.
The
Mhm.
higher you fly, the more.
The
area
more
you're
it
gonna-
spreads out, so the more you would,
Yeah.
So the more they need parachutes.
yeah.
That's the first thing I think of when I'm
Exactly,
thinking of the
right.
drone.
I actually put a piece of plastic down on a big area,
Hmm.
flew it over top. And they landed, they were still moving, so it didn't kill them.
And do you feel like they landed in a dispersal similar to what you get out of like a
Better than the
A
hand,
blower?
because the hand, I'm
hand
closer
cricker
together.
is too much, yeah,
And with the drone, it was more spread out.
Right, yeah.
yeah,
So like open areas like that,
Mhm.
Hydrangea area at Ridge or the road section
yeah,
could be done in a matter of half an hour
Mhm.
at the most.
yeah. I think I heard you can do, oh, that was a sprayer on the tractor sprayer. I'm not sure, but I know they did 400 acres in one day in Canada. So if you can do 400 acres in one day, it's quick.
Yeah, it's
So
quick.
say you had to do 10 acres, I'm sure it would take you an hour.
Yeah.
At most.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. That's kind of the future of it. That's how we kind of make it applicable to you guys. And again, using it for thrips and spider mites where it excels the most. Yeah, and then if you want to talk more about it, here's my contact information. I do site visits. I make biocontrol programs tailored for growers and what their goals are, what their budgets are. Bioline does offer something called Bioline Academy. I don't know why they have to make it so fancy, but we do, basically it's biocontrol and IPM training for your team. So I can come in and do a seminar in person, or I could do it virtually to kind of teach your teammates maybe how to scout for stuff. I tailor it for what that particular farm needs help on. But a lot of times it's scouting, or how to treat the bugs when they first show up and how to put them out. Things like that. And then of course, chemical compatibility. I can work with you on checking and making sure that you're not spraying something that's going to kill your good bugs that you've already put out. So that is something I'm constantly working on. I've been at Bioline for over a year now, and I've really gotten to know the chemicals. So it's just part of the job. So we can go over those things and kind of help make it a little bit less overwhelming of a process. Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions from anybody?
Hey Valerie, are there any thoughts about doing the tri-line in the tape forms?
In the what?
In the tape form where you have the long tape that you can put out into the,
I haven't heard of them creating that. I did hear them talk about potentially making one with two different species where the sachets alternate. So say you have like a Californicus sachet, and then the next couple feet down on the ribbon, there's a Swarovski sachet. So you can get thrips and spider mites out of one ribbon. But I can ask them. I don't know how easy it would be for them to create a mix inside a sachet, because at that point you're kind of trying to produce them competing species in one space.
I guess I wouldn't eat one, eat the other.
Yeah, like I think that would be a little bit of an effect there. We also have something that I don't have a lot of places that use it, but that we do offer it. It's called Gemini, and it's a sachet that's basically like a teepee shape, and you get one species on one side and one species on the other side, and it's like an upside down V, and you just hang it on the tree. So if you want to try Gemini out, let me know. Yeah, because it's offered. It's not super common, but we definitely have it, and I have people using it. Yeah, I'll let you know if I hear anything about them putting multiple species in the bug line form.
Other questions?
You know, one,
Okay.
are you gonna be sometime in the future offering the drone application for people in the nurseries?
I'll be there. I don't know how much help I can provide.
No, like you bring the drone and apply it for the guys.
Oh, I'm not the drone pilot here.
Okay.
Yeah. But you guys have a drone. So
Our drone may come absolutely use by the end of the year.
oh.
They're changing the laws and all that. You know?
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well,
No, we just gotta buy a different one, that's all.
Yeah,
okay.
We just gotta make one that's made in the United States.
it's
Oh,
about,
yeah.
it's
Oh,
about the
I see
DJI.
how it is.
It's a DJI thing. They're trying to stop
Yeah.
the Chinese drones in
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
Mark, any other questions before we kind of move on this afternoon?
not at this end.
Okay. So I'm gonna